Hey everybody, this is Ramon Ray. I'm talking to my good friend of a few minutes, Connor Wray of
JohnnyPops.
JohnnyPops. Connor, why don't you just take it away to help us understand a bit who you are and what JohnnyPops is all about? Let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Given that my background consists mostly of JohnnyPops, let's start with JohnnyPops.
Let's do it.
JohnnyPops is a business that I founded with a group of college buddies about 10 years ago. So we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year, which is super exciting. And we make a better tasting, better for you frozen treat. So what does that mean? It means popsicle-like items. We describe them kind of as a smoothie on a stick.
Love it.
That we manufacture at our headquarters in Minnesota and then distribute to retailers all across the country.
Love it.
Now we started 10 years ago very small. Farmers markets, pushing carts to beaches, throwing products in the back of our car and driving fast.
So they wouldn't melt.
Yeah, exactly. No refrigeration involved, just speeding. And have really come a long ways now to servicing retailers in all 50 states, a few foreign countries.
That's big because many smaller businesses talk about we started in Costco, we did the small launch. So congratulations for being across the country. Continue.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And throughout that time, I've been a part of the business since, at the beginning, what is a title? I'm doing it, you're doing it all. But for the past 8 years or so, I've led our finance, accounting, and business development and administrative organization.
So they didn't let you do the popsicle tasting? I mean, they didn't let you...
Well, that's just a given. No one takes a job at an ice cream company without expecting to participate in the product development and taste testing. It just comes with the territory.
I love it. Help us understand some of the jumps in the business over the past 10 years, making the first popsicle or JohnnyPops, back in the car. What was that like those years? Where did you go after a few years, if it makes sense, and where are you today? Help walk us through some of the stages that you can think of, if that's helpful.
Yeah, we started in the basement at the ground level.
Yeah.
And maybe below ground, and that is really a grind. We had to go out and buy blenders and ingredients at the grocery store, and make every product by hand, just with our team. Yep. And then go to the farmer's market, wake up at 3 a.m., throw a freezer in the back of the car, and we did that for several years. We did that for at least 2 years before we said, this model might not be scalable.
And curious, did you know then where you wanted to be today, or was it just two guys, three guys?
I started with a handful of us.
Was it just a few guys getting together and saying, let's just do something, or did you know we want to build this into $1 billion brand back then?
We started with big goals.
Okay, good. So you knew you wanted to go somewhere bigger.
Yeah, we knew we wanted to go somewhere bigger, and we got to a point where we said, we need to start scaling.
Got it. Okay.
And so after a couple of years, we went out. We wrote a bigger business plan to get a more dedicated manufacturing space, some equipment that would help us scale up our batch size, but still produce the high quality products that we wanted to produce, and find the capital to support that. And so we did that. In 2014, we moved into a facility that we're actually still in today, although on our way to transitioning later this year around Thanksgiving into a even bigger, more sophisticated manufacturing facility. But that really gave us the tools, to meet the regulatory frameworks, the customer expectations, and the product development goals that we had. To take the brand from just being something that was kind of direct to consumer through farmers markets into retail. So in 2014 we launched the product into retail and have scaled from 30, 40 local stores to over 10,000 retail outlets across all 50 states that we serve today.
I love it. I know that's NetSuite. I know is a part of that story. I want to get to that in a minute.
Absolutely.
And help us understand 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 20 tips that you have for the business owners listening to, especially who are in the same space. I guess you'd call it food. What's the category? Frozen food space?
Yeah, food manufacturing.
Food manufacturing. Yeah. Who are in the food manufacturing, especially to those. We won't talk in general, small businesses. Any 2 or 3 things you can think of that, hey, if we could do it again, or here's a lesson for you, food manufacturing, here's 1 or 2 or 3 things that you may want to consider as you're starting out or as you're in your journey of growth. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. For us, some of the critical challenges were around how do we scale up the manufacturing. I think a lot of businesses, especially when they transition from that farmer's market model to the retail model, go from a price point where they're capturing 100% of the cash sale value, using usually very by hand production processes, to realizing that retailers and distributors and maybe other marketing agencies, sales reps who insert themselves into the process of getting a product from the distributor to the retailer all need to take a piece of that sale price for that business model to work. And that at that same time, the price that you're charging at farmer's market may not be competitive in the retail environment because you're not there at the shelf 24 hours a day to explain to that shopper what makes your product different. And a lot of times what that requires in coordination is a tandem rise in volume and leaning in to create a production process that does achieve margin objectives so that everyone can be scalable. And it's a really hard hurdle to get over and to try and do those things as close to simultaneously as possible, to move from a very intensive, potentially expensive production environment to something that is more sustainable and cost effective at the same time as working to drive that volume up through retail outlets. But they really go together, and it's critical. And it's critical for anyone in that space of looking to get into a retail environment to, even before going in and taking that leap, to do that due diligence on this is what it looks like today when I sell my product, and this is what it's going to look like tomorrow. And that's maybe going to require some real solid decision making and changes to the underlying business infrastructure to enable that to happen.
No, I love it. Is this why that it's? I'm assuming that it's important to have. I think you're a real CFO. Is this why it's important to have a CFO, controller, accountant, that team, especially to those who are scaling? Ramon's doing it himself, making, in this case, ultimate shirts or whatever. But as I'm growing, I need to have someone like yourself, that title, that intelligence, that mindset to help with that. Correct? Because the founder may not be the one who's great with all that requires to grow the company and scale. Does that make sense?
I think that's definitely true, and I happen to have accumulated 10 years of expertise in this food manufacturing, retailing, wholesaling environment, and so I can speak to those margin structures. Who's going to need to be involved in roughly how much are they going to need to make in what's fair for them?
Absolutely.
I think in any stage when you move from that kind of friends and family or farmers market model, there is that scaling when you start to leverage distribution channels. Getting someone who knows what that route to market looks like, who the other players are going to be, and what is fair and reasonable compensation to plan for those parties, so that you can get real intelligence before diving in, is super important.
Absolutely.
And we were able to find resources who helped us with that along our journey before we learned the hard way what some of those things were. And I think that's critical for any entrepreneur to bring in that experience, whether it's onto the team full time or it's finding the right go-to-market partners who you trust, who can bring you that knowledge.
I love it. We heard from Evan Goldberg, and again, thanks for being here today. We have Connor, right? Wray of JohnnyPops here. So Connor Wray of JohnnyPops, thanks for being with us. We heard from Evan Goldberg, and I know the whole team has that spaghetti diagram. Those who don't know it, talks about ERP and the shipping, receiving, and HR manufacturing and all those things. It's fair to say, and I think I already know the answer, but it's fair to say that systems like that, which NetSuite provides, are important if you're going to do what you do, because you could have all knowledge in the world, but sometimes it's going to get over your head using just pen and pencil. So is that this combination of your brain and experience, and then a system that can help you tie all this together? Does that make sense?
As you look to scale efficiently, you're always looking to avoid outstripping hitting a limitation that you can't break through, or having something that's really not business critical, not value add, be the barrier that's keeping you from getting where you want to go. To the spaghetti web, right? You would hate to have some pile of paperwork somewhere prevent you from achieving otherwise business growth that you could go after.
Because you can't see the data also. You can't, you need something, I'm guessing, because you just said it takes knowing this, and this fits.
And those problems, they tend to get exponentially worse. Complexity compounds exponentially as your business grows, because you might go from one item to 10. You might go from one customer to 10. You might need to go from only working with one supplier to multiple to meet your growing needs. And all of those things tend to happen relatively simultaneously as you scale. And so the number of variables floating around your business scales very rapidly, more rapidly than your revenue, profit, and ability to keep track of it without putting in place a scalable set of business processes and solutions. And that's something where we've really leveraged NetSuite. So we've been on NetSuite at this point for about half of our journey, so about 5 years.
So you need to have a birthday party, 10-year party for you, and you need to have a NetSuite party for 5 years. I mean, come on now.
Maybe. Who can say no to a party? But for us, NetSuite has been a critical link in allowing us to continue to scale. A big pain point for us was keeping track of our inventory at an item-specific, location-specific, lot-specific level, given the regulatory and traceability requirements that we have. We were talking reams and bankers boxes full of paperwork from everything from shipping and receiving to production to quality testing, things like that, and being able to take that whole spaghetti spool and put it into one system was our biggest pain point to push us into NetSuite. Although in solving for that, we were able to find a technology solution that also kept us out of other similar potholes as we continue to scale.
No, I love that. This is amazing. Connor, anything else that comes to mind for you? Now, one thing I do want to say, I know you are a for-profit business clearly, but I know it's important that everybody who buys from it, I believe you help others. Can you just talk about that briefly? You help others who are in need. Talk about that and the mission, why it's so important to you.
Absolutely. So when we started JohnnyPops, myself, a group of business partners, my business partner, Eric, him and his cousin, Jonathan, were the ones who conceptualized the idea for kind of a better for you, better tasting frozen treat. But before they could take that product and bring it to market, unfortunately, Jonathan passed away.
Yes.
It was a result of a drug overdose, and so very understandably, Eric stopped working on the project. But when Eric and I met and were talking about starting a business, he was really still passionate about the product, but also about the opportunity to honor Jonathan, who's our namesake, JohnnyPops. And that's where our motto, a better pop for a better world, comes from, and our mission to make the world a better place one pop at a time. We do that in a variety of ways, part of which is supporting addiction, research, recovery, rehabilitation. But we also print a little good deed on every stick instead of a joke or a quote. We encourage people to pay it forward and be a part of making their communities a better place.
I love it. So if you're watching this, and you are watching this, get a JohnnyPops frozen treat, because you're going to be helping to make the world a better place. And who doesn't want a popsicle or Johnny Pop or a frozen treat in their mouth? So listen, Connor, anything I didn't ask you, anything you wanted to touch on before we end this discussion? It's been a great discussion. I know really way too brief, but anything you wanted to add before we end this discussion?
For anyone on the journey, from that basement level to wherever they're headed, it's hard. It always looks easier from the outside. Success looks easy from the outside looking in, but it's always lots of work for the people who are making it happen. So, you might be grinding it out thinking, it looks like they're really having it a lot easier over there. And, I think our experience has been, it's usually not the case. They're just putting on a good show.
Yes, you know what? I hear you on that. Me as a professional speaker, I got people looking at me, I want to be like Ramon. He just walks around in his pajamas in his office. They have no clue. They have no clue.
You put on a good show?
Yes, I do. Well, listen, thanks for being here. Connor Wray with a W-R-A-Y of JohnnyPops. If you're looking for a frozen treat, definitely check out JohnnyPops. And more importantly, Connor, you're a cool guy. Thanks for spending time with me
Thanks
today.
so much for having me.
You're welcome here at the NetSuite Sweet World, and so glad to have you. So I think with that, I'm trying to find more things to say, but why? Why not just hit the stop button and just call it a day?